Good morning, excuse me, on this very hot morning already, after the hottest day of the year yesterday. Apologies for the growing hair. I picked a good month to do a month of lives, didn't I, when hairdressers are closed. But we'll press on. Today I'm going to talk about this request from a parent. I want everyone to believe in themselves. I wonder what the world would be like if everyone did. Well, let's have a little think about why children may not believe in themselves. And in my experience, one of the reasons children don't believe in themselves or cease to believe in themselves is because they come into one world, what I call the natural world, the core world, and there's an intuitive understanding of how things work. And then they meet the 21st century culture. I was actually talking to somebody yesterday about this, and the conflicts that can arise because there are things in the 21st century that are not don't really fit with the human design. Things like criticism, things like judgment, racism. I'm sure you can think of a list yourself. Hate. I mean, there are a lot of big issues that all of us need to address. And when children first meet these, they do not understand, and they may go very quiet, and they may question you about them and say, why did that person do this, or why are those people behaving like that? And you feel a bit lost for words. I know, I've been there. And you feel, ultimately parents sometimes just say, come away, or don't. And the child then starts to think, what have I done? Why shouldn't I say something? And I remember a very poignant, very striking photograph of a tiny little boy in the massacre that occurred in a shopping centre somewhere in Africa, one of the African countries. And his mother had just been shot, a 4-year-old child. His mother had just been shot, and he walked up to the man who had shot her. I don't know if she had been shot dead, but she was on the floor, and this little 4-year-old, there was a photograph of him, so angry, looking at the man who had the gun and saying, "You are a very bad man." Now, that very simple words, but such power in that photograph, because that little chap was absolutely 100% right. And the man gave him a Mars bar as though that was going to make it better. Now, all of us are dealing with these issues. I'm not immune. I'm getting old. I'm not immune to these things either. And it's something I try to work on every day in myself and with any child that I'm working with if it raises its head. And I've got 2 books here today that may help you boost your child's self-belief. At the same time, try to stay with your child in that core line, because the core line, the natural world where we're full of compassion, the best of everything human lives in the core. And the 21st century has these negative aspects, has lots of wonderful aspects. The technology, the advance, the creativity, fabulous. But until we address these inner conflicts, inner to the human race, I mean, we don't see them anywhere else in nature, in with such ferocity. So to try to boost that self-belief, you have to look at your child and talk to them about it. Don't avoid it. If you're stuck, say, and I do say to children sometimes, I don't really know what to say about it, but like you, I feel the same. I feel that it's not the right thing to do. I remember a child. I may have told this story before. A young girl sitting on a bench in my classroom. She was a very nice girl, but could be prone to outbursts because her family background was quite difficult, and her parents had separated. And and she was sitting looking very fed up one day. Everyone else was leaving the classroom to go to break. And I walked across and sat next to her because she was completely lost in her own little world. Sat next to her and sort of leant against her and said, "What's up?" And she said, "Nothing." So I said, there's something. You're not normally like this." And she said, "I think I must have been adopted." I said, "What on earth makes you think that? Can you imagine what that child was going through? What on earth makes you feel like that or think that?" And she said, "He wouldn't do this to me, would he, if he was my real father?" And what had happened was her father would repeatedly arrange to come and see her and take her out, and he hadn't turned up again. And with the limited reference that she had about her limited experience in the world, her limited ability to articulate what was going on in her, she had come to this conclusion. And I said to her, as your teacher, I should say, well, I'm sorry to hear that, you have to respect your father, go out to play. But I said, as your friend, I'm going to say, I think you're absolutely right to feel like you do. I'm sure he wouldn't let you down so badly if he knew how you felt. And it allows the parent room to improve by saying that, but it also helps the child recognise that their feeling is not wrong. Their feeling is telling them that this isn't the right way to behave, and she was desperately disappointed because of course she loves him. So it's things like that erode children's self-belief, because they feel one thing, they're told to think something else, and there the conflict lies, and down that hole can go their self-belief. So listen carefully when your child is saying something, especially when it's something, if you're sitting on the bus and a little one blurts out, "Oh, look at that person's big nose," and you feel like you want the world to swallow you up and just disappear, and you go, "Shh," that little shh, you can say, we might upset the person saying that to them because they may feel uncomfortable about that, but they're right. The person has a big nose. It's very difficult to manage these, but have a think in advance what you will do to preserve your child. You may come up with better things to say than I did, because nobody trains us to separate these things out and keep your child in that natural life as much as you can, because if we strengthen that, it will help to make them less susceptible to the negative influences of the 21st century culture, and I defy anybody to tell me they're not there. So I have 2 books to recommend to you, and I will put the links below. One is Peter Reynolds' Say Something, is it back to front? Say Something, which if you see something not right, say something. And it's not a bold, go and shout at everybody. It's very nicely done. But the reason I use these books like this, is not so much because I totally believe in what the author's saying, but because I think they start great conversations. And if you glance through the book, they're never very long, you can go through it in about 10 minutes. If you glance through the book yourself and think, how do I want to talk to my child about being a bit more bold? How do I want to, explain to them why there is such conflict in the world? We inherited it. We are trying our best not to allow it to continue. And then the second book I'd like to recommend to you is another book for starting a conversation. What do you do with an idea? I love this. I loved looking at what an idea looks like. I mean, there's a great conversation starter. What do you think an idea looks like? And in this book, an idea looks like that. I'm not sure what your ideas look like. So by all means, deliberately start conversations like these when you think the moment is right. But if we want to help children maintain their self-belief, and we want our own self-belief, we have to be able to separate who we are from what we're experiencing and winkle out the bits that work for us, so that we can be sure of ourselves. We can be sure it's going to be light tomorrow. We can be sure that rain will help the flowers grow, and we can be sure of what's in nature. We can be sure the power of nature is phenomenal. So that's what I would advise as a starter for self-belief. They're born with it. Let's help them keep it and maintain it by showing them how to navigate their way through the negativity that surrounds us all. Thank you very much for watching. I will be back tomorrow to talk about, I would like to be able to teach my children to be respectful in and outside the home. So I look forward to that as well. Thank you. Have a lovely day and try and stay cool.